Sarah Mitchell's blood was still warm on the frozen ground when Tyler Bradford kicked her one last time. "Should have kept your mouth shut about the wolves," he snarled. The 20-year-old orphan lay motionless on Old Loggers Trail, her skull cracked against a rock, ribs shattered. Tyler, Brett, and Jake stood over her crumpled body, their breath forming clouds in the midnight air. "Is she?" Brett's voice wavered. Tyler checked her neck pulse. "Weak, but there." He smiled. "Let her freeze. The wolves will finish what we started." He turned to his friends. "No one knows she's out here. No one's coming." They climbed into Tyler's truck and drove away, tail lights disappearing into the Minnesota darkness. Sarah's phone lay shattered 3 feet from her outstretched hand. Temperature dropping to 34 degrees. In 2 hours, hypothermia would claim her. But Tyler Bradford didn't know one thing the forest had been watching. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Let's continue with the story. 12:48 a.m. Sarah's eyes fluttered open to a sky full of stars she couldn't quite focus on. Pain came in waves. Her right side screamed with each shallow breath. Broken ribs, definitely. Maybe punctured lung. She tried to move her left arm. Nothing. Tried her legs. Her body refused to obey. The cold was worse than the pain. She'd grown up in these Minnesota woods. She knew hypothermia, knew the stages, knew what came next. Her fingers were already numb. That was stage 1. Shivering would come next, then confusion, then the deadly warmth that made people strip off their clothes right before they died. She'd read about hikers found frozen, half-naked, smiling. Sarah forced herself to think clearly. Assess the damage. Her phone. Where was her phone? She turned her head, ignoring the stabbing pain in her neck. There. 3 feet away, screen shattered into a spiderweb of cracks. Completely dark, dead or destroyed. It didn't matter. It was 3 feet she couldn't cross. The road was empty. Old Loggers Trail saw maybe 2 cars a week during daylight. At night, never. Her cabin was a 1.5 miles north. She'd been walking home from her late shift at Morrison's Diner when Tyler's truck had cut her off at the bend. The beating had lasted maybe 3 minutes. Felt like hours. Town was 8 miles south. Too far for anyone to hear her scream. Sarah tried anyway. "Help!" Her voice came out as a whisper, lost in the wind rustling through pine trees. "Someone, please." Nothing. Just the vast indifference of the forest. She tried to calculate. Core body temperature normally sat at 98.6 degrees. She could feel herself shivering now. Violent tremors she couldn't control. That meant she'd already dropped to around 95 degrees. Stage 2 hypothermia began at 93 degrees. Stage 3, the deadly stage, started at 90 degrees. Medical websites said you lost about 1 degree every 30 to 40 minutes in freezing conditions. She was wearing just jeans and a thin jacket. The ground beneath her was stealing her heat even faster. 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours if she was lucky. After that, her heart would simply stop. Sarah tried to pull herself toward the road. Her arms shook with effort. She managed to move 6 inches before the pain in her ribs made her gasp and stop. Blood trickled from her hairline, warm against the cold air, dripping onto the frost-covered leaves. Every movement made it worse. The broken rib was shifting, pressing deeper into tissue. If it punctured her lung completely, she'd drown in her own blood long before hypothermia claimed her. She had to stay still, had to conserve energy. but staying still meant freezing faster. Sarah wanted to cry but couldn't waste the moisture. Couldn't waste the heat. Her mind drifted to her parents. The car accident 10 years ago had left her an orphan at 10. Her grandmother had raised her until cancer took her too. 5 years later. Now Sarah lived alone in the cabin they'd left her, working 2 jobs, barely scraping by. No one would miss her until her shift tomorrow afternoon. By then, she'd be 12 hours dead. "I'm going to die here," she whispered to the stars. Alone. Just like Mom and Dad. The cold was making her drowsy. That was bad. That meant her body was shutting down, redirecting blood from her extremities to protect her vital organs. Soon she wouldn't be able to stay awake. Once she fell asleep, she wouldn't wake up. Stay awake. Stay awake. Stay awake. Sarah bit her lip hard enough to taste blood. The pain helped, but only for a moment. Then she heard it. A sound that made her remaining hope crumble into dust. Branches snapping in the darkness. Footsteps. Multiple footsteps. Moving through the underbrush with purpose, not human footsteps. Too light. Too many. From the tree line, 47 pairs of yellow eyes opened in the darkness. And every single one of them was locked on Sarah. Sarah's heart hammered against her broken ribs. Wolves? Not 1 or 2. A pack. 8 shadows materialized from the tree line, moving with the silent coordination of apex predators. Their eyes reflected her dying phone's last flicker of battery light before it went completely black. She knew the rules, had studied wolves since childhood. Don't run, don't make sudden movements, don't look them directly in the eyes, appear non-threatening. But she was bleeding. The metallic scent of her blood hung in the freezing air like a dinner bell. Blood triggered hunting instincts. Blood meant prey. Blood meant food. The lead wolf stepped closer. Female. Sarah's brain cataloged automatically. Gray-silver coat. Old. Battle-scarred. Alpha. Sarah's survival instinct overrode logic. She had to move. Had to get away. She dug her elbow into the frozen ground and pulled. Pain exploded through her torso. The broken rib shifted, grinding against something soft inside. She tasted copper. Internal bleeding, then perfect. But fear pushed her forward, 6 inches, then another 6. The wolves reacted instantly. 3 males broke formation, flanking her from different angles. Low growls rumbled from their chests. Warning sounds. The alpha female's ears flattened against her skull. Sarah froze. Wrong move? Prey behavior? Running prey. "Stay back," she gasped, knowing it was useless. Wolves didn't understand English. They understood body language, hierarchy, strength. She had none of those things right now. Her hand found a broken branch, half buried in leaves. She gripped it with fingers that barely responded, raised it like a pathetic weapon. "Go away. Please." The alpha took another step forward, then another, close enough now that Sarah could see the frost forming on her muzzle. Could count the years in her amber eyes. 5 feet away. 4. Sarah's mind screamed at her to swing the branch, to fight, to do something. But her body was shutting down. The shivering had intensified. Her teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue. The alpha stopped at 3 feet. Sat down, just sat, like a dog waiting for a command. Sarah blinked. That wasn't normal. Wild wolves didn't sit calmly near injured humans. They circled, tested for weakness, attacked when the moment was right. They didn't sit and tilt their heads with something that looked almost like recognition. The wolf's left ear had a distinctive scar, crescent-shaped old wound, poorly healed. Sarah's brain, starved of oxygen and warmth, struggled to connect dots that seemed important. 10 years ago, she'd been 10 years old, freshly orphaned, living with her grandmother. They'd found wolf pups in this exact area, 8 of them, abandoned in a rocky den after hunters had killed their mother. One pup had been sick, infection spreading from a torn ear. Sarah had begged her grandmother, a retired veterinarian, to save them. 4 months of bottle feeding, wound care, sleepless nights. Then they'd release them back to the wild because that's what you did with wild animals. You helped them and let them go. That infected ear. Sarah had cleaned it daily, applied antibiotics, watched it heal into a crescent-shaped scar. Luna, the name came out broken. Is that you? The wolf's ears perked at the sound. She stood, closed the distance to 1 foot. Sarah's hand holding the branch trembled. Not from fear now, from something else. Hope, disbelief. Luna lowered her massive head and pressed her cold nose against Sarah's freezing hand. The touch was gentle, deliberate, submissive. Wolves didn't submit to humans, not wild ones, not unless... You remember, Sarah whispered. Tears froze on her cheeks. You actually remember me. The other 7 wolves relaxed their defensive postures. They'd been waiting for Luna's signal, following their alpha's lead, for one brief, shining moment. Sarah thought maybe this was salvation. Maybe these wolves would stay with her, keep her warm with their body heat. Maybe Luna would protect her until someone found them. Then reality crashed down. Her core temperature was still dropping. She could feel it in her bones, in the way her thoughts were getting fuzzy, in the way colors seemed too bright and sounds too distant. 93 degrees, maybe 92. Luna could recognize her, could sit beside her, could even lie down and share warmth. But wolves couldn't call 911, couldn't drive her to a hospital, couldn't stop internal bleeding or set broken bones. Sarah was still going to die, just not alone anymore. You remember me, she said again, voice fading. But you can't save me. No one can. Luna's response shattered the night. The wolf lifted her head toward the 3/4 moon and howled, not the short, sharp bark of a hunt, not the territorial warnings Sarah had heard countless times from her cabin. This was different, longer, mournful, desperate. This was a call for help. Luna's howl pierced the night like a siren. Long, haunting, urgent. The sound traveled through the forest, bouncing off trees, carrying for miles in the still air. Sarah had heard wolves howl hundreds of times from her cabin. Territorial calls, hunting coordination, pack bonding. This was none of those. This was an SOS. The 7 other wolves joined in, their voices braiding together into an eerie harmony that made Sarah's skin prickle despite the cold. The sound grew, swelled, filled the entire valley. Then, from deep in the forest, came an answer. Sarah's breath caught. Another pack, 3 miles east, maybe 4. Their howls were different in pitch, but identical in urgency. They'd heard Luna's call and were responding. Minutes later, another response, this time from the west, then south, pack after pack, lighting up the darkness with their voices. A chain reaction spreading through the wilderness. Sarah's foggy brain struggled to calculate. If the howling was this loud, this sustained, maybe someone in town would hear. Ely was 8 miles away, but sound carried far on cold, clear nights. Maybe Sheriff Patterson was still awake. Maybe someone would investigate. "Keep going," she whispered to Luna. "Please. Someone has to hear." Luna pressed against Sarah's side, sharing her body heat. The wolf's thick fur was warm, almost hot against Sarah's freezing skin. The other 7 wolves formed a loose circle around them, facing outward, protecting. Sarah felt a flutter of hope. Her core temperature had probably dropped to 91. Maybe 90 degrees by now. But with Luna's warmth, maybe the decline would slow. Maybe she could last another hour. 2 hours, long enough for help to arrive. The howling continued. More packs joined the chorus. Sarah counted at least 6 different directions now. She'd saved wolves throughout this forest for 10 years, removed them from traps, treated their wounds, fed them during harsh winters when deer were scarce, always from a distance, always respecting their wild nature. But they remembered. Somehow, they all remembered. The sound was deafening now. Dozens of voices, maybe more, a symphony of wolves calling across the darkness. Surely the whole town could hear this. Surely someone would come. 12:55 a.m. Sarah clung to consciousness, fighting the drowsiness that wanted to drag her under. Luna's breathing was steady, warm against her neck. The wolf's heartbeat was strong, rhythmic. Sarah focused on it, using it as an anchor to stay awake. Stay awake. Help is coming. Just stay awake. 1 o'clock arrived. The howling had been going on for 15 minutes straight now. Still no headlights on the road, no sound of vehicles. Sarah's hope began to crack. 8 miles was far. Too far. Maybe people in town were hearing the howls but dismissing them as normal wolf behavior. Maybe they'd rolled over in bed and gone back to sleep, never knowing someone was dying just outside their safe, warm houses. Her teeth had stopped chattering. That was bad. That meant her body was giving up on shivering, conserving its last energy for vital organs. The final stage before shutdown. 1:05 a.m. A new pack arrived. 7 wolves emerged from the eastern tree line, moving cautiously toward Luna's group. Their alpha, a massive gray-black male, approached Luna with submissive body language. Permission granted. They formed a second circle, expanding the protective ring. 23 wolves now, all here because of her, all trying to help in the only way they knew how. But it wasn't enough. Sarah felt herself slipping away. Her vision was tunneling, darkening at the edges. Her thoughts were becoming disconnected, dreamlike. She thought about her parents, wondered if they were waiting for her somewhere. Her grandmother, all the people she'd loved and lost. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Luna. "You tried, but I'm still going to die." Luna whined softly, licking Sarah's face. The gesture was so gentle, so heartbreaking, that Sarah wanted to cry. But she had no tears left. 1:12 a.m. Sarah's eyes were starting to close when she heard it. Engines. Car engines. Not one. Multiple vehicles. Her heart jumped. Help. Finally. The howling had worked. Headlights cut through the trees, growing brighter. The roar of a powerful truck engine echoed off the rocks. Sarah tried to call out, but her voice wouldn't work anymore. The first vehicle came around the bend. Headlights illuminated the wolves, turned their eyes into dozens of glowing orbs. Sarah saw the license plate. BRF 2847. Tyler Bradford's truck. He'd come back. Tyler Bradford stepped out of his truck, followed by Brett Sullivan and Jake Morrison. All three men froze when they saw the wolves. 23 pairs of eyes reflected in the headlights. 23 wolves arranged in two perfect circles around Sarah's motionless body. Not attacking, not feeding, protecting. What the hell? Brett's voice cracked. Sarah's heart, already failing, seemed to stop completely. Through her dimming vision, she saw Tyler's face, not surprised, not concerned. Cold, calculating. He'd come back to finish what he'd started. "This is perfect," Tyler said, a smile spreading across his face. "Even better than I planned." Jake took a step back. "Tyler, what are you talking about? We need to call an ambulance. Are you insane?" Tyler spun on him. "She's still breathing. If she talks to the cops, we're all going to prison for 20 years. Brett's face went pale in the headlights. You said we were just going to scare her. Plans change." Tyler walked to the truck bed and pulled out a hunting rifle. "We came back because we heard wolves. Tried to save Sarah Mitchell from a pack attack. Tragically, we were too late. That's the story." The truth crashed over Sarah like ice water. Tyler hadn't panicked and fled. He'd gone home, thought it through, and realized leaving her alive was a mistake. The security camera at Morrison's diner would show him talking to her before she left. He needed a cover story. An animal attack would be perfect, untraceable. No murder investigation. He'd come back to make sure she was dead and stage the scene. Jake stared at the rifle. "You can't be serious, Tyler. There are 23 wolves out there. They're not acting normal. They're protecting her like she's one of them." "Wolves don't protect people," Tyler said, loading the rifle. "They eat them. We just need to scare them off. Create some wounds that look like bites. Drag her body deeper into the woods. By morning, real wolves or coyotes will do the rest." He raised the rifle and fired into the air. The blast echoed through the forest. The outer circle of wolves flinched but didn't flee. They tightened formation instead, moving closer to Sarah. Low growls rumbled from multiple throats. Luna stood, placing herself directly between Tyler and Sarah. Her lips pulled back, revealing teeth that gleamed white in the headlights. "They're not leaving," Jake said quietly. His voice carried a tone Sarah had never heard from him before. Knowledge, understanding. My father was a wildlife tracker. He told me stories about wolves like this. Wolves that remember. "Tyler, if you hurt her with them watching, they'll hunt us. Not today, not tomorrow. But they'll hunt us for years until we're dead." Tyler laughed. "That's superstitious bullshit." "Is it?" Jake pointed at Luna. "Look at that alpha. She's not scared of the gun. She's not running. She's choosing to stay and protect a human. That's not normal wolf behavior. That's personal." Brett was backing toward the truck. "Jake's right, man. This is wrong, all of it. We beat up a girl because she stopped your logging project. Now you want to murder her. I'm out." Tyler swung the rifle toward Brett. "Nobody's out. You're in this as deep as I am. You threw the first punch." "I didn't sign up for murder." Brett's voice rose to a shout. "Keep your voice down," Tyler hissed. But it was too late. From the direction of town, New sounds emerged. Sirens, multiple vehicles. Tyler's face twisted with rage. Who called the cops? Nobody, Jake said. But the whole town probably heard those wolves howling for 20 minutes straight. Someone came to investigate. Tyler made his decision in an instant. He pointed the rifle at Sarah. If I'm going down, she's coming with me. Luna launched. The wolf covered 12 feet in less than a second. Tyler, caught off guard, swung the rifle toward the movement and fired. The bullet caught Luna in the left shoulder. The wolf's body twisted midair and crashed to the ground 2 feet from Sarah, blood spreading across her silver-gray fur. Sarah's scream was soundless. No air left in her damaged lungs. But the anguish that tore through her was louder than any sound. All 22 remaining wolves erupted. The careful, protective circle shattered into aggressive action. They didn't attack yet. But every wolf was on its feet. Hackles raised, teeth bared. The sound of their collective snarling was like thunder. Tyler pumped another round into the chamber, swept the rifle across the wolves. Back off, all of you. Jake grabbed Tyler's arm. Stop, you're going to get us all killed. Tyler backhanded him. Jake fell, blood streaming from his nose. Sarah watched through fading consciousness. Luna was dying beside her, shot because she'd tried to protect Sarah. 2 other wolves lay dead from earlier. Her parents were dead. Her grandmother was dead. Now Luna. Everyone she loved ended up dead. This was her fault. If she hadn't protested the logging project, Tyler wouldn't have targeted her. If she hadn't saved those wolf pups 10 years ago, they wouldn't be here dying for her. If she'd just kept her head down and her mouth shut, none of this would have happened. The cold was almost comfortable now, welcoming. Her body temperature had dropped below 88 degrees, hypothermia's final stage. Soon she'd feel warm, happy, ready to sleep forever. Let Tyler shoot her. At least then no one else would die because of her. Tyler aimed the rifle at her head one final time. Goodbye, wolf girl. A voice cut through the chaos like a thunderclap. Freeze dropped the weapon. Sheriff John Patterson stepped into the headlights. Service weapon drawn. 5 deputies behind him. Tyler didn't drop the weapon. He pressed the barrel against Sarah's temple instead. Stay back, he shouted at Sheriff Patterson. I'll kill her. Patterson and his deputies fanned out, weapons raised. Son, there's no way out of this. Put down the gun. But Sarah barely heard them. Her world had narrowed to Luna lying 3 feet away, blood pooling beneath her silver coat. The wolf's breathing was shallow, labored, her eyes. Those amber eyes that had recognized Sarah in the darkness were glazing over. Sarah tried to reach for her. Her arm wouldn't move. Nothing worked anymore. Her body had given up, shutting down system by system to preserve whatever life remained in her core. 90 degrees, maybe 88. The deadly zone where the heart simply forgot how to beat. The 22 other wolves formed a living wall between the deputies and Tyler. They weren't attacking, but they weren't moving either. Low growls warned everyone to stay back. 2 of their packmates already lay dead in the dirt. Their alpha was bleeding out. The humans with guns were the enemy now. Call them off, Tyler yelled at Sarah. Call off the damn wolves. She couldn't have spoken if she'd wanted to. Her jaw was locked from hypothermia. Her tongue felt thick and useless. Even if she could talk, the wolves wouldn't listen. They were wild animals, not pets. They were here by choice, and they'd leave by choice, or they'd die here. Like Luna was dying. Brett Sullivan collapsed to his knees 20 feet away, sobbing. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "God, I'm so sorry. We beat her. Tyler ordered it. I hit her. This is all my fault." "Shut up," Tyler screamed, but his voice cracked. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the freezing temperature. He was trapped. Wolves in front, police behind. A dying girl at his feet who could testify against him if she lived. Sarah felt a strange detachment settling over her. The warmth was here. The false warmth that came at the end. Her grandmother had told her about this. The final trick the dying brain played. Making you think everything was fine. Making you want to take off your coat and lie down in the snow. It would be so easy. Just close her eyes. Let go. Luna whimpered. The sound cut through Sarah's fog. The wolf was trying to stand on 3 legs, trying to crawl to Sarah even with a bullet in her shoulder. Tears froze on Sarah's face. She couldn't even cry properly anymore. This was her fault. All of it. Luna had lived 10 years in the wild, survived hunters and harsh winters and rival packs. She should have lived 10 more. Instead, she'd die here because Sarah had been stupid enough to think she could change things. Stupid enough to believe standing up to Tyler Bradford would matter. Her parents had died because they'd gone out in a snowstorm to pick her up from a friend's house. Her grandmother had worked herself to exhaustion raising Sarah alone, probably accelerating the cancer that killed her. Now Luna. Now these wolves. Everyone who loved Sarah ended up dead. Maybe the world would be better off if Tyler pulled that trigger. At least then the bleeding would stop. The dying would stop. No more orphaned wolf pups because their protector got them killed. No more drop the weapon or I will shoot you, Patterson said, his voice steady but cold. Tyler's finger tightened on the trigger. If I'm going to prison anyway. Luna lunged with the last of her strength. Tyler turned and fired. The bullet meant for Sarah's brain caught Luna in the chest. The wolf crashed down and didn't move again. Something inside Sarah shattered. Not her body. That was already broken. Something deeper. The part of her that had survived her parents' death. Her grandmother's death. Years of loneliness and struggle. The part that had kept fighting, kept believing things could get better. That part died with Luna. She stopped shivering, stopped fighting. Let the cold embrace her like an old friend. In the chaos that followed, she heard more gunshots, heard Tyler screaming, heard the wolves' enraged howls. But it all seemed distant now, happening to someone else. Her heart was slowing. She could feel it. 60 beats per minute. 50. 40. Patterson was suddenly beside her, hands checking her pulse. His face went white. She's in cardiac arrest. Where's the goddamn ambulance? A woman's voice, professional and urgent. Sheriff, she won't survive transport to Duluth. Core temp is critical. We need to rewarm her now, or she dies in the next 10 minutes. Do it here. We don't have the equipment, unless... The voice paused. Jake Morrison. Isn't your uncle a veterinarian? Sarah's consciousness flickered. A choice was being made. She couldn't hear it clearly, didn't care anymore. She just wanted to see Luna again. Her heart beat 30 times per minute. Then 25. Then someone was lifting her, carrying her. And the world went black. 1:19 a.m. Sheriff Patterson's command hung in the air. Tyler's gun was still pressed against Sarah's head. Luna lay motionless in a spreading pool of blood. 22 wolves surrounded them all, snarling. Patterson had 30 years on the force. He'd talked down armed suspects, negotiated hostage situations, stared down barrel-chested men twice his size. But he'd never seen anything like this. A standoff between humans and nature itself. Tyler Bradford, this is your last warning. Drop the weapon. Tyler's hand shook. You don't understand. Sheriff, she ruined everything my father's company, our contracts, our reputation. All because she cares more about animals than people. So you decided to kill her. I decided to teach her a lesson. Tyler's voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to go this far. But she wouldn't stop. Even bleeding on the ground, she kept defying me with her eyes. So yes, I'll kill her, because people like her don't deserve to win. Brett Sullivan stood up, hands raised. Sheriff, I'll testify. Tyler ordered the beating. Jake and I just followed. But murder, that's all him. You coward. Tyler swung the rifle toward Brett and fired. The bullet caught Brett in the thigh. He went down screaming. The wolves exploded into motion, not attacking yet, but closing ranks. The circle tightened. 15 feet became 10. 10 became 7. Tyler spun back to Sarah, finger on the trigger. I'm ending this. Patterson made his choice. He fired twice. Both rounds hit Tyler in the shoulder and chest. Tyler dropped. The rifle clattered away. The wolves stopped advancing. Their alpha was down. The threat was neutralized, but their instincts warred with confusion. Should they attack the wounded human, protect their fallen leader? Scattered to safety, Luna made the choice for them. With her last breath, the dying wolf lifted her head and released a sound that wasn't quite a howl, more like a sigh. A release. Permission to leave. The 22 wolves turned as one and melted into the forest. No hesitation, no looking back. Their alpha had released them from duty. Luna's head dropped to the frozen ground. Her amber eyes closed. She was gone. Patterson holstered his weapon and ran to Sarah. Dr. Helen Morris, the lead paramedic, was already there with a medical kit. She pressed 2 fingers to Sarah's carotid artery. Pulse is 24 BPM. Core temperature. She inserted a thermometer probe. 87.3 degrees. Sheriff, she's in severe hypothermia. Cardiac arrest is imminent. Get her in the ambulance. Duluth Hospital is 42 minutes. She won't survive the transport. Her heart will stop before we cross the county line. Morris looked up, and Patterson saw something he'd never seen in her eyes before. Helplessness. I don't have the equipment to treat this in the field. We need heated IV fluids, controlled rewarming, intensive monitoring. Without that, she's dead. Jake Morrison, blood streaming from his broken nose, spoke up. My uncle, Dr. Robert Morrison. He runs a veterinary clinic 8 minutes from here. Dr. Morris stared at him. A vet. He was an Army combat medic for 15 years. Afghanistan. He's treated hypothermia, gunshot wounds, everything. He's got warming equipment for large animals, heated fluids, even a small operating room. That's for animals, not humans. But it's 8 minutes away instead of 42. Jake's voice was steady now. Certain. Doc Morris, you said she won't survive the drive to Duluth. At least my uncle's clinic gives her a chance. Dr. Morris looked at Patterson. The sheriff saw the impossible choice reflected in her eyes. Option 1, follow protocol. Take Sarah to a real hospital with real equipment. Watch her die en route. Do everything by the book and live with the failure. Option 2, take her to a veterinary clinic. Use animal equipment on a human. Violate every medical regulation in existence. Maybe save her life. Maybe get sued and lose her license. Maybe make everything worse. Patterson thought about Sarah, 10 years old, orphaned, clutching a photo of her parents at their funeral. 15 years old, burying her grandmother. Standing alone by the grave. 20 years old, working 2 jobs, saving every wolf she could find. Never asking for help, never complaining. She'd spent her whole life choosing to help others, choosing compassion over convenience. Time to return the favor. Take her to the vet, Patterson said. Doctor. Morris closed her eyes for 3 seconds. When she opened them, the decision was made. Load her in the ambulance. Jake, call your uncle. Tell him we're coming in hot with severe hypothermia. He'll have exactly 8 minutes to prepare. They lifted Sarah onto the stretcher. Her lips were blue. Her skin was white as the frost on the ground. She looked already dead. Patterson turned to his deputies. Secure the scene. Get Brett medical attention. Take Tyler into custody if he survives. He looked at the forest where the wolves had disappeared, where Luna's body lay cooling in the dirt. And for God's sake, he added quietly, someone cover that wolf with respect. The ambulance doors slammed shut. Sirens wailed. Sarah's heart beat 20 times per minute as they raced toward a veterinary clinic and the most desperate medical procedure of Dr. Morris's career. The ambulance screamed through the night at 70 miles per hour. Inside, Dr. Helen Morris worked with the precision of someone who knew every second mattered. Sarah's heart monitor beeped. Slow, irregular, dying. 20 beats per minute. 19, 18. Core temp still dropping. Tom, the assistant paramedic, called out. 86.9, Doctor. Morris wrapped heated blankets around Sarah's body. Started an IV of warmed saline, but it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Sarah's body was shutting down faster than they could warm it back up. The ambulance radio crackled. This is Dr. Robert Morrison. I'm ready. What's her status, Doctor? Morris keyed the mic. 20-year-old female, severe hypothermia, multiple trauma, core temp 86.8 and dropping, heart rate 17. She's minutes from full arrest. Understood. I've got the warming protocol set up. Bring her straight to the large animal surgical suite. It's the only table big enough, and it's got the heat lamps. Tom gave Dr. Morris a look. He's really going to treat her like a horse. He's going to treat her like a patient who needs to not die in the next 5 minutes. Dr. Morris checked the monitor again. 16 beats per minute. Drive faster. 1:26 a.m. Morrison Veterinary Clinic appeared ahead, every light blazing. Dr. Robert Morrison stood in the open bay door. A tall man in his 60s with silver hair and steady hands that had sutured soldiers in Kandahar and delivered foals in Minnesota blizzards. The ambulance barely stopped before they were pulling Sarah out. Surgical Suite 2, go Dr. Morrison led the way. The room smelled like antiseptic and hay. A stainless steel table designed for horses dominated the center. Industrial heat lamps hung from the ceiling, already glowing orange. IV stands held bags of fluid warming in a medical-grade heater. Monitors that tracked vital signs for dogs and cats were already powered on. They transferred Sarah to the table. Her skin was gray. Her chest barely moved. Dr. Morrison didn't waste time. Tom, activate all heat lamps. Maximum setting. Dr. Morris, I need 2 large-bore IVs. Bilateral access. We're going to flood her with warm fluids. How warm? 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to raise core temp without causing burns? They worked in synchronized chaos. Dr. Morrison placed a breathing tube down Sarah's throat, connected it to a ventilator modified to deliver warmed, humidified oxygen directly into her lungs. Dr. Morris established IV lines in both arms, started the heated fluid infusions. The heart monitor continued its ominous descent. 15 beats. 14. We're losing her, Tom said. Not yet, we're not. Destar. Morrison checked Sarah's pupils. Unresponsive. He checked her skin. Still cold as ice despite the heat lamps. Core temp. 86.2, still dropping. Dr. Morrison made a decision. We need active internal rewarming. Tom, prep the peritoneal lavage kit. Dr. Morris's eyes widened. You're going to flush her abdominal cavity with warm fluid. It's a veterinary technique for severe hypothermia in large animals. Direct contact with internal organs. It's aggressive, but she's out of options. 1:32 a.m. Durbenstarsent. Morrison made a small incision in Sarah's lower abdomen, carefully inserted a catheter into her peritoneal cavity. Warm saline began flowing in, bathing her internal organs in heat. The monitor showed 13 beats per minute. Come on, Dr. Morrison muttered. Come on. Sarah, fight. 12 beats. Core temp. 86.1. It's stabilizing. Wait, 86.3. It's rising. 11 beats. The monitor alarm began to wail. 10 beats. She's arresting. Morris shouted. The monitor flatlined. One long, continuous tone. Asystole. No electrical activity. No heartbeat. Dead. Dr. Morrison was already climbing onto the table. His knee pressed into the metal beside Sarah's still body as he positioned his hands over her sternum. Starting compressions. He pushed down, hard. The force required to compress a hypothermic heart was brutal. Something cracked. A rib, probably. Dr. Morrison didn't stop. 100 compressions per minute. Dr. Morris squeezed the ventilator bag, forcing oxygen into Sarah's lungs. Tom monitored the rhythm. Still flatline. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 90 seconds. Epi, Dr. Morrison ordered. We don't have human dosages. Give me 0.54 milligrams. Canine dose adjusted for her body weight. IV push. Now, Dr. Morris loaded the syringe, injected it into the IV line. Dr. Morrison never stopped compressions. His arms burned. Sweat dripped from his forehead. He'd done CPR on countless animals. Never on a 20-year-old girl who'd saved the lives of 47 wolves and was dying because she'd cared too much. 2 minutes, 2:30. Core temp rising, Tom called out. 87.1, 87.6. Still flatline. Dust. Morrison compressed harder. One of his knuckles split open. Blood smeared on Sarah's chest. He didn't care. You don't get to die, he growled. Not after everything you survived. Not after those wolves tried so hard to save you. You don't get to quit now. 3 minutes. The textbook said brain damage began after 4 minutes without oxygen. They were running out of time. Second dose of epi. Dr. Morrison said. Dr. Morris prepared the injection. That's when the monitor blipped. 1 heartbeat, weak, electrical noise, maybe. Another blip, another. "We've got sinus rhythm," Tom shouted. 30 BPM, 40, 50, Doctor. Morrison stopped compressions, climbed off the table. His hands shook. His breath came in gasps. Sarah's chest rose and fell on its own. Her heart beat 60 times per minute. 70, 80. Core temp, 88.4, 89, 90. They'd done it. Pulled her back from the edge. Dr. Morrison sagged against the wall. Decades of combat medicine and emergency veterinary work finally catching up to him. "Welcome back, kid." Then Sarah's eyes snapped open. Wide, terrified, unseeing. And she screamed, "Luna! Where's Luna?" Sarah thrashed on the surgical table, ripping out one IV line. Alarms screamed. Her core temperature had just climbed past 90 degrees, but her mind was still trapped in the frozen woods watching Luna fall. "Sarah, you're safe, Dr." Morris tried to restrain her. "You're at a veterinary clinic. We saved you." "Luna." Sarah's voice was raw. "Tyler shot her. I have to..." She tried to sit up. Pain exploded through her broken ribs. She gasped and fell back. "Doctor..." Morrison placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "You just came back from clinical death. You're not going anywhere. She's dying." Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "She saved me, and I left her there to die alone." The three medical professionals exchanged looks. They'd pulled off a miracle, getting Sarah's heart beating again. But the girl was ready to tear herself apart, trying to save a wolf. Sheriff Patterson appeared in the doorway. "Sarah, the wolves are gone. Luna, she didn't make it. I'm sorry." "No." Sarah shook her head violently. "No. You don't know that. Wolves hide when they're wounded. She could be alive. I have to look for her. You have multiple broken ribs, a skull fracture, and you were dead 3 minutes ago." "Doctor," Morris said gently, "you need to rest." Sarah met her eyes. "Would you rest if it was someone you loved dying alone in the cold?" The question hung in the air. Patterson spoke quietly. "She spent 10 years saving those wolves. Never asked for anything in return. And when she was dying, they came for her, all of them." He looked at Dr. Morrison. "If there's any chance that Wolf is alive..." Dr. Morrison checked Sarah's vitals. Heart rate steady. Temperature 91 degrees and rising. Stabilized. But far from safe. "This is against every medical protocol." "I know," Patterson said. "If she goes out there and her condition worsens, she could die. I know. But you're going to let her try anyway." Patterson nodded. "That wolf earned it." So did she. 1:50 a.m. They bundled Sarah in heated blankets, placed her in a wheelchair with a portable IV stand. Dr. Morrison packed a veterinary field kit. Patterson loaded them into his SUV. Jake Morrison, face swollen from Tyler's punch, was waiting. "I'm coming too. I know how to track blood trails." They drove to Old Loggers Trail. Crime scene tape fluttered in the wind. Deputy Miller was photographing evidence. Luna's body lay where she'd fallen, covered with a sheriff's department blanket. Sarah's heart broke all over again. But Jake was already examining the ground with a flashlight. "There's a second blood trail," he said. "Lighter flow, leading northeast into the forest." Sarah's breath caught. She was alive. She got up and walked. Or crawled, Jake said carefully. "This much blood loss. She won't have gone far." They followed the trail. Sarah in the wheelchair. Patterson pushing. Dr. Morrison carrying his kit. Every bump sent pain through Sarah's ribs, but she didn't make a sound. 0.3 miles into the forest. Jake stopped. Trail ends here, at this rock formation. Sarah recognized it immediately. The den. The same place she'd found 8 orphaned wolf pups 10 years ago. The entrance was barely 3 feet high. Sarah climbed out of the wheelchair, ignoring Dr. Morrison's protests. She got on her hands and knees and crawled inside. Her flashlight beam swept the dark interior. There, in the back corner, Luna lay on her side, breathing shallow and fast. The wound in her shoulder had stopped bleeding, but infection was already setting in. Her body temperature was too high. Fever. Around Luna, 7 wolves from her pack stood guard. They growled when they saw humans. But when Sarah crawled closer, they recognized her scent and went quiet. "Luna," Sarah whispered. I'm here. Luna's eyes opened. Recognition flickered. Her tail twitched once. Barely. Neither. Morrison squeezed into the den, medical kit in hand. He examined the wound. Bullet went through clean. No fragments. But she's septic. Without antibiotics in the next 6 hours, she won't make it. Then give her antibiotics, Sarah said. I'd need to operate. Clean the wound, remove dead tissue, close it properly. I can't do that here. Then we do it here anyway. Dr. Morrison looked at this 20-year-old girl who'd just been dead on his operating table, now demanding he perform surgery in a wolf den with a flashlight. You're as stubborn as your grandmother was. You knew her. She brought me my first wolf patient 20 years ago. Taught me half of what I know about treating wild animals. He opened his kit. Hold her head. If she panics from the pain, she'll bite. Sarah cradled Luna's massive head in her lap. The wolf looked up at her with those amber eyes. It's okay, Sarah whispered. I've got you. Dr. Morrison injected a sedative. Not enough to knock Luna out completely, too dangerous with her weakened state. Just enough to dull the pain. He worked fast, cleaned the wound with antiseptic. Cut away necrotic tissue. Luna whimpered but didn't struggle. Sarah stroked her fur, singing softly, the same lullaby her grandmother had sung to her after her parents died. 37 sutures to close the wound. Antibiotics injected. Subcutaneous fluids for dehydration. When it was done, Morrison sat back. Best I can do under the circumstances. The rest is up to her. Sarah stayed in the den, lying beside Luna, sharing warmth. The other 7 wolves settled around them. An hour passed, then 2. Dawn light filtered through the den entrance. Luna's breathing steadied. Her fever began to drop. Patterson appeared at the entrance. Sarah, you need to get back. You're still hypothermic. Not yet, Sarah said. Not until I know she'll make it. 3 hours post-surgery. Luna raised her head, looked at Sarah, licked her hand once. It was the wolf's way of saying I'm okay. You can go now. Sarah kissed Luna's forehead. Even now, she whispered. We're even now. She let Patterson help her out of the den. As they walked back to the vehicle, Sarah looked over her shoulder once. Luna sat at the den entrance, watching. Behind her, the 7 wolves of her pack. Sarah raised her hand. Luna's ears perked forward. Then the wolf turned and disappeared into the forest, her pack following. 2 weeks later, Sarah sat in a hospital bed in Duluth. Her ribs were healing. The skull fracture was minor. She'd make a full recovery. Sheriff Patterson visited with news. Tyler Bradford pled guilty. 28 years. Brett Sullivan got 7. Jake Morrison's charges were dropped for cooperation. And Luna? Patterson smiled. Wildlife cameras caught her yesterday. She's hunting again, limping slightly, but alive. Sarah closed her eyes, finally allowing herself to believe it. They'd both survived, against impossible odds. They'd both survived. 6 months later, Sarah stood at the opening ceremony of Minnesota's first wolf conservation center. The building rose from the land Bradford logging had tried to destroy, now protected as a permanent wildlife sanctuary. The video of 47 wolves protecting her had gone viral. Donations poured in from across the country. Scientists called it unprecedented interspecies loyalty. Sarah called it simple gratitude repaid. Every Sunday evening, she hiked to the old den. Luna always came, sometimes alone, sometimes with her pack. They'd sit together as the sun set, no words needed between them. Tyler Bradford served his sentence in silence. Brett Sullivan wrote Sarah letters of apology she never answered. Jake Morrison became her partner at the Conservation Center, working daily to atone. The wolves taught Sarah what humans often forgot. Love isn't ownership. Loyalty is an obligation. True connection requires nothing but presence and remembered kindness. She'd saved 8 wolf pups a decade ago, expecting nothing. They'd saved her life, asking nothing. The mathematics of compassion never balanced on paper. It balanced in moments like these, when a wild wolf chose to rest her head on a human's knee. Some bonds transcend species. Some debts are paid in heartbeats, not currency. Have you ever stood up for what was right, only to be punished for it like Sarah was?